Hello, happy, what day is it? It doesn't even tell me what day it is. It is Wednesday. It's technically a short week for us here in Canada because we just had our Thanksgiving weekend. But it's still proving to be a very long week, which if you follow me on Instagram, you'll know why. But yeah, we had Thanksgiving. I mean, I've never really fully celebrated Thanksgiving. I mean, we celebrate with Nick's family, or we have every year. But my family has timeshare in Florida. We have for like, gosh, 18, 20 years. So I mean, I would say for the last, I'm gonna age myself right now. I'm 31, so I would say for the last 15 years, I haven't really been to Florida. I've been once, which was 4 years ago when Otis was 6 months old. But my mom and my dad have always been there, so I don't really celebrate with my side of the family, just because we've either been in Florida and we'll do something small down there, but it's not like we're gonna cook a turkey or anything. And then the last 15-ish years, my side of the family hasn't been around for Thanksgiving. So with COVID, my parents were around this year. My dad was doing something with his partner. So, I mean, we'll see them. I'm not like a, oh, it's Thanksgiving, we need to do something kind of person. But my mom cooked a turkey, and it was probably the first time my mom has cooked a Thanksgiving turkey in like 20 years. So that was nice. But it's always like, it wasn't like a busy weekend, but at the same time it was exhausting because you're not sleeping in your own bed. We thought it'd be a good idea for the kids to have a sleepover, aka like sleep in the same room together so that we wouldn't have to like divide and conquer. And it went as well as you can imagine. The one night, it was actually really comical. We had the video monitor set up, and Van fell asleep first. He was exhausted. He hadn't napped. He was just like, I'm over it. I want to sleep. And in the video monitor, we see Otis straddle him and start shaking his shoulders. And then a few moments later, we hear the door open, and Otis kind of creeps down the stairs and comes running over and says, I have something cool I need to show you. So Nick and I follow him upstairs back to the bedroom, and he, in the driest way possible, points at Van and says, look, he won't stop snoring in my face. So I guess he wanted to sleep, but Van was snoring. So we ended up moving Van into the pack and play because they were both sharing a bed together. The pack and play was still in that bedroom, but at least they were separated. So they slept until 6, and then at 6 they were like, wake up! So we were tired. We got home Monday, and yeah, that was like the start of our week, I guess. I have a lot of stuff that I would like to show you. I have some new yarn. If you remember me talking about my trip to the knitting loft and all of my yarn acquisitions from that trip, turns out they ended up acquiring the space right next door to their current shop. So they are closed right now for renovations, and they're completely blowing out the wall between the two shops so that they can expand, which is really exciting. So they sent out a newsletter a couple weeks ago. We're having a reno sale. They were, I think it was for 1 week. So sorry, it's not on anymore. But okay, I got some yarn, and I do have a plan for everything. I didn't just like go into it without thinking things through. So if you remember in one of my previous videos, I had picked up this combination for Otis to knit a sweater for Oats. It's going to be striped. It's really fun. This is the label. I love the labels so much. So this is wool from Portugal. The colors are just so stunning. And majority of it is recycled. And this one that I got for Oats, this is a sport weight, so I'm planning to hold it, I think I'm going to hold it double, because I am just knitting a child's sweater. So I think that will work. I'm going to try and zoom in a little bit in hopes that you can see the yarn better. Okay, let's try this. Okay, so this is what I got for Otis. The light right now might not be the best, but I decided that I wanted to knit Van a sweater as well. So for Van, I got, do this right. Okay. There's it. Okay, so for Van, I got these. And this is a DK weight. I have this color for a sweater to knit myself, but I want to make the boys somewhat matching but different sweaters. That will kind of, see if I can do this. So Otis is on the bottom and Van is on the top, but I want Nick to take pictures of them this winter. So I need to get started soon. So I'm gonna knit the boys sweaters. They're gonna be cute. I think I'm gonna do, I was originally saying that I was gonna knit the Frankie sweater by Maison Dean, but I think that I'm actually just gonna keep it simple and knit a flax. It's a free pattern by Tin Can Knits, and it's pretty easy to modify, because I think it has like a garter ridge down the sleeve, so I'm gonna modify it. I don't like that little detail. And sorry about the crinkle, but I ended up jumping at the opportunity to get some more Durum Natura. This is the same wool that my Impulse purchase was from my last trip there, if you remember this one. And after having worked with it It's amazing. I love it a lot. So I got this, which is a super neutral. It's almost like a really warm gray, like a gray brown. I will put a caption thingy with the color of the name color, the name of the color on it. But I got 4 of these, and I'm either going to knit myself a weekender or a nurtured. I was thinking weekender, but I've tried knitting the weekender twice now. Both times have been horrible. I even gauge swatched for it, and it just, the first time I did not gauge swatch, and it ended up being big enough for Nick and I to both fit in the body of the sweater, which is just ridiculous. So I do have plans for these, and I'm sorry that the light is so annoying right now. It was so much better before my battery died. So I got those, and I have another yarn acquisition on the way, and it's actually really exciting. It's very similar to the Plotalopi that I got. I might need to move this camera. Okay, let's try this. So yes, it's very similar to the Plotalopi yarn that I got, which looks like this. They're like a wool disc. This is Icelandic wool, but the one that I ordered, I only ordered one, and I'm gonna use it to knit a pair of socks. It is 100% Canadian wool, which is really exciting, because it's kind of like, I feel like this past weekend I saw so many sheep farms, but trying to source local wool is really hard. So I came across this account on Instagram. They are called Wild in the Woods, and I completely admire their way of life. It's definitely not something that I think would work for where we live, but I think that it's very cool. They have a homestead, and it is crazy how, what's the word I'm looking for? Successful it is. And so they sell botanically dyed, so naturally dyed yarn, but they listed Canadian wool discs. So it's 100% unspun wool roving, and it's in 5 natural colors. I don't know how well this is going to register. So I ended up, I don't even remember which color I got, but I only got one. And I'm gonna end up knitting a pair of socks because the designer that I'm crushing on, and I always seem to talk about, she just released a sock pattern. I don't know if I should show you guys because it's technically a mystery sock knit along. I'll show you this picture. But anyways, it's knit with a bulkier weight yarn, so I can get away with doing the Plotalopi because I think that's what the pattern calls for. And then you hold it with a strand of mohair to reinforce it and make sure that it's strong. But this is somebody else's socks, and it just looks super cozy. Living in Canada, our winters are long. And we live in 100 and what, 110-year-old house. I think our house, no, when was our house built? I think our house is built in 1904 or something, so it's really old. And even though we've done work to it and the previous homeowners did work to it, it's still cold. It's an old house. So the idea of knitting myself a really cozy pair of socks makes me happy. And it's not on itty bitty needles, which also makes me happy. So I've got a lot of knitting plans, but I just have to get through this one last test knit, and then I can do all the selfish knitting that I want. I mean, this is technically selfish knitting that I'm doing, but when you're knitting with a deadline, kind of changes things. So anyways, I'm going to show you my progress. I can't even remember how far along I was. I don't think I had started last time. But I'm on my final tree repeat. Here it is. So I'm on my final tree repeat. And then I think I have one last increase. I feel like the sun is getting even worse now. Yeah, I've got one more increase to do. And then I can separate for sleeves. Which, I mean, for the most part, this test knit has gone pretty smoothly, but there have been a few hiccups. Somebody else had a fit issue. Their sleeves were too big and their body was too small. So I am a little bit, I mean, right now my biggest, I feel like, I don't know, my concern is that I always get really nervous when it gets to this part of a sweater because I'm always like, it gets to that point where it's like, oh, I've put so much effort in already. Is it gonna fit? Is it gonna fit? I mean, I know it's gonna fit, but I just hope that there aren't any fit issues because I really, really love it. I love the contrast between plie and the Natura yarn. It's a stunning color. So you start this knit with a provisional cast on, and then you're supposed to go back at the end and knit the collar. I ended up knitting the collar one night because I was waiting for confirmation on a part of the pattern, and didn't realize in the process that it's well, I mean, I realized, but I didn't realize because I've never done it before. The cast off method is a tubular bind off, which turns out is very similar to Kitchener stitch. I hate Kitchener stitch. It does not click with me. Literally, I will leave projects. I had a sweater, the first sweater that I ever knit for myself, sat, and all I had to do, because it was a bottom up sweater, all I had to do was basically seam the underarms of the sweater, and it sat for 2 years. Until one day my friend Kylie was like, I'll do it, bring it to Sip and Stitch, I will seam it for you, it's a beautiful sweater, don't let it go to waste. And she legit seamed the underarms for me. I tried and tried and tried with that sweater. I put lifelines in and I tried, I think one day I sat there for 2 hours trying to figure out how the F to do the Kitchener stitch. I had knit Otis a baby sock, well, toddler, I guess. And the sock sat there for a year because I couldn't figure, I mean, now that I know how to do a 3 needle bind off, that's what I will do hands down every single time instead of doing a Kitchener stitch. That's actually my my finished sock that I testing this pattern for Morgan of the Knitting Nelly. I didn't do Kitchener stitch. I did a 3 needle bind off. Laundry. Okay, so this is the inside where I used a 3 needle bind off. You can't even tell. And then from the outside, again, can't really tell the difference. Okay, so I'm moving chairs because the sun is just not cooperating. So the yarn that I ordered from this person, it's very similar to the Plötulopi Icelandic wool that I showed you last time, which is this. So it's like a unspun wool roving, and they're called like wool discs because it's literally just a disc. So Plötulopi is Icelandic, and the yarn that I ordered, I got 1 wool disc, and I know exactly what I'm going to knit with it. It's going to become a pair of super cozy socks, but it's Canadian wool, which is really exciting, and it is undyed, so it's just a natural sheep, I guess. So I'll start with the socks that I'm going to knit with it. They're going to be very cozy and very similar to this. Focus. There. So the pattern actually calls to use Plötulopi yarn. And then you're supposed to hold it with mohair to reinforce it. So I might just go into my stash and pick out a mohair and knit myself a really cozy pair of socks. But this is what their color options were. So it's undyed, it's just the natural color from the sheep's wool. I think I got the light gray or maybe the medium gray, I can't really remember, but I'm very excited to get that and knit with it. Yeah, I've been making a lot of progress on my test knit. It's actually, I don't think I had cast it on the last time I talked about it. I think I had just showed you the colors I was going to be knitting. So here's my progress. Let's see if I can get this there. That's better. So I'm on the final tree repeat, and then I have 1 more increase to do, and then I can split for sleeves. This is the part of the sweater that I always get super nervous about, is the fit, and mostly just making sure that's not too big on the body or too tight on the arms or vice versa. And I have heard from a few people that they're having some fit issues. So fingers crossed it goes okay. I don't know if you noticed that I have a second set of needles. So the pattern, you cast it on with a provisional cast on and some waste yarn, and then you're supposed to go back and knit the collar at the end. Well, I decided one night while I was waiting for clarification on something else for the pattern to knit the collar. And then I realized that it was tubular bind off, and I've never done tubular bind off before. So when I was watching this video, this amazing video on YouTube on how to knit it, I literally have knit all of the setup rows. There are 4 setup rows before you bind off, and then the lady that's teaching via this YouTube video says it's very similar to Kitchener stitch. I hate Kitchener stitch, so I've been putting it off. Kitchener stitch and I just don't go, but I have all of the yarn needed to finish this bind off, and I'll eventually get there, or I'll just start a new fashion trend where needles are a part of the sweater. Yeah, I hate Kitchener stitch. It does not, for whatever reason, does not click with me. I have tried so many times. I've had, the first sweater that I ever knit actually was like three years ago. And it sat basically finished, just needed to have it was a bottom up sweater, so it just needed the armpit seamed, and it called for Kitchener stitch. So my sweater sat for 2 years until my friend Kylie was like, can't take it anymore, just bring it to me and I will seam it. So she seamed my underarm join thingy for me. And this was before I even knew about 3-needle bind off. So you're probably like, but weren't you like test knitting a sock? Yes, and as much as the sock I love, well, no, where am I going with this? I love it so much. It called for Kitchener stitch at the toe because it was knit from the cuff down. I don't know if you can see. How should I do this? I did not Kitchener stitch my toe. I did a 3-needle bind off. And you can't really even tell, but it is the way that I fake a Kitchener stitch all the time now. You can't even tell. But I can't do that on the collar of a sweater because I'm not seaming two things together. So I'll eventually get brave enough to try it, but I'm hoping to get to the sleeve split tonight so that I can just knit in simple stockinette for the body. I really want to knit the sleeves first, but she just sent out an email literally like 30 minutes ago saying please don't knit sleeves yet. I'm working on sleeve shaping, so I won't be knitting the sleeves first. But I'm really, really happy with the colors. I think it's going to be such a cozy knit to wear. It's so thick and warm up where the trees are being knit. So I think it'll be really nice for Canadian winters. This is, I'm only like 3 rows into the second ball of plie, so the first ball went pretty far. And since I'm testing my new base, I have to admit that I absolutely am 100% smitten with non-superwash yarn. It's absolutely incredible to knit with. I love it. I was actually talking with my friend Bailey the other night, and I was like, I have a confession to make. I think I like non-superwash more than superwash. I don't know what it is about it. I love knitting with it. I love dyeing it. It takes color so beautifully. And I mean, like, I would think that my colors are like really punchy, but non-superwash is just doing something so magical with my usual lineup of colors. I can't wait to show you. I've spent the last 2 days dyeing up DK weight non-superwash yarn, and I'm like, I can't wait to get down to the basement and dye and even wash pots. Like, I'm anxious to get down there and start working. So I'm loving it a lot. What else can I show you? I casted on the second sock, so I have started working on it. That's really exciting. And this is like super random now, but back to my Knitting Loft purchase. I also purchased a tote, and I thought for sure that it was going to be like, I don't know, like a flimsier tote because it was 20 bucks. This is like legit beautiful, like a canvas tote. I love it. So it says Biche and Boosh. This is a little knitting club, and I love it a lot. I've got a couple of pins that I put on it. I always have to have a Van for Van. And then I've got my Knittery Society pin, and then I've got a Twill and Print make, wear, and mend pin. But I just thought that this would be super nice for like a casual type of bag, and it's like really, really spacious. So I love that, especially if like we're gonna be going anywhere for, you know, a day trip or something. Like if we're gonna go for a walk somewhere, I feel like it's a practical one to have because it's washable. I also wanted to show you my impulse cast on because of this past weekend, Thanksgiving. I knew that we were gonna kind of like be around family, like my mom and her husband. So I wanted something mindless. So if I was knitting, which I don't actually knit a lot in front of family, I feel super weird about it. So it like very rarely happens. But I wanted something that I could work on and be able to hold a conversation at the same time. So if you remember me talking about casting on a forager sweater with that spin cycle yarn, and I was originally going to use this Biche and Boosh yarn to hold with it, I did something different. So what I ended up doing instead, it's really magical. Well, you saw my picture. I decided to bust out this Plötulopi because I really, really wanted to try using it. I was just sitting there and I was super anxious. I had no patience and no chill level. So I cast it on a forager, and it is super dense because I believe the forager is written to be a DK weight. So you're supposed to do like Plötulopi with a strand of mohair, I believe is what the pattern calls for. So I'm holding it, the Plötulopi double, with the spin cycle. But it's stunning, and I can't wait to wear this. It's gonna be so cozy. So this is the front. And then this is the back. See all the colors. Super pretty. And okay, so I did that rip test on camera last time, and I was like, oh, this isn't like ripping very hard. But it, I guess when you're knitting with it, completely changes. So I've got some ends here to weave in from where the yarn was breaking while I was knitting with it. But I ended up learning pretty quickly. So up here I have like 2 ends, so I have to like weave those in, but then I learned pretty quickly on that. You can see I've just got 1 end here. I would pick up and knit the broken end with the what I was casting on, in hopes that it fuses together. So some parts are a little bit thicker, but it kind of gives it this like woolen spun thick and thin type of look. You can't even really tell. But yeah, I'm about 26 rows away from separating for sleeves. And I wound up all of the other balls, because if you remember me saying all of them were so different, like they're so incredibly different, that the first one has this like chunky section in it where it went really pale, like purpley blue. I'm not doing a very good job at this. This section right here went really pale purpley blue, like almost like a lilac lavender type of fade. None of the other ones have that color in them. Like, none of them. I mean, this one has a little bit of blue right there, if you can see it. This one has the faintest amount of a purple. And then this one is just straight up pink and green. So my plan is to use this one next that has the hint of purple. And then I'm just gonna basically keep knitting it down with this one. And then if I need it, I'm gonna go into this. I might actually save this one. I don't know. See, I didn't want to like overthink this because they're all so different, but I'm a little bit bummed that I didn't get sent 4 that were more closer in color to each other, especially like ordering a sweater quantity and paying so much for Spin Cycle's not cheap. So that's my only downside of, I guess, this, but I think it'll look okay. Like you won't really be able to tell, but I just wish that all of them kind of had some of this purpley color in it because it is pretty. I just think it's literally the only one I got that has that color in it. But I'm still very, very excited about this knit. I'm very excited to wear it. I think it's gonna be super cozy, and I think because it is Icelandic wool, it's gonna be a great layering piece. I don't know if you guys know, but Icelandic wool, it's like I've never been to Iceland, but we've watched a lot of things on Iceland because we want to go one day if traveling ever becomes a thing again. Nobody really wears coats there. They're all just wearing these amazing Fair Isle sweaters, and it's because sheep that are bred and raised in one climate, so say Iceland, their wool basically is going to be perfect and adapt to the changing weather. So not only is it going to temperature regulate, but it's also going to be waterproof because Iceland is wet and rainy and cold. So it repels water, it keeps you warm, you're not gonna get sweaty and gross and then smell really bad. So very excited about this. I think it's gonna be an amazing piece to wear for our Canadian winters. So I'm gonna keep plugging away at this. Once I get separated for the body, I'm gonna kind of go back and forth between these two and knitting them. And I'm very excited about that. And then the final thing that I wanted to chat about with you is for Big Stella patrons, we are going to be starting our quarterly craft along, and I'm really, really excited about it. So if you're not a Big Stella patron, this won't really apply to you, but I'm going to be doing a craft along. One of my favorite things is to try new things, especially creative things. They don't always work. They will often fail. Like for example, I used to have an embroidery business, so that's super random. But our first craft along is going to be beeswax candles. So I found a local beekeeper. They're just in the neighboring city, and I purchased some beeswax. So this is 1 pound of beeswax, and it was $12. And when you think, I don't know what beeswax candles go for anywhere else, but here they're crazy expensive. Like, I think to buy a tea light, like a pre-made tea light candle, think the last time I was looking at beeswax candles, it was like $6 for one candle. This is a pound of beeswax for $12. And it's supporting a local beekeeper, which is really awesome. So I actually got 3 of these, and my plan is to make some for home, but I'm also gonna make some for Christmas gifts. So that's gonna be our first craft along. This week I'm gonna post a post on the materials needed to do our candles, and then I might actually do a Patreon step-by-step video that I'll upload, and hopefully you guys will find this really fun to do. I've been collecting, I'm going to be using recycled candle holders that I've already used. Like, I have some amber colored ones that I burnt. The candles are basically gone now, so I'm going to clean them up and then repurpose them. And I went with wood wicks for mine. So you could do wood wick, you could do just your traditional wick. I got them off of Amazon because my local beekeeper didn't sell wicks, but I know some do, because my dad said he just was at a beekeeper up where he lives, and they had everything to make candles, which was really cool. So that's going to be our first craft along. Very excited about that. And yeah, that's kind of all I've got. I feel like that was a lot. There's a lot of trial and error with my camera today. So it was a bit of a rocky start, but we got there in the end. The boys will not be back for a little bit, so I'm gonna probably head back down to the basement, keep plugging away at work while I can. My mom's gonna come help me tomorrow morning. There's lots of yarn to label, so one of us will label and one of us will package orders. And yeah, I hope that you guys are having a great week. I'm also going to post, I think I'm going to post 2 dates. 2 dates for our first virtual knit night. And then hopefully we can figure that out. Majority vote was for a Zoom call, so yay. Definitely a little bit nervous about that, because I'm a very introverted, shy person in real life. But I think it'll be a lot of fun. So I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to sign off, get back to work, and I hope that you guys have a great, cozy week. And we'll chat soon.